We are outside!
My partner came and picked me up at 1 minute past midnight last night.
Oh, what is that, Chevy? Fresh air! Oh.
It's been a long journey for these weary travellers. On the first day of March, when the ocean Atlantic set off from the world's southernmost city, Ushuaia, bound for the Antarctic peninsula, COVID-19 was still a developing story.
Obviously, when we booked it, there weren't any issues or limitations with travel.
Wasn't a pandemic yet.
Yeah, so
It was kind of at the back of people's minds, I guess, that this was something that we might have to deal with to some extent.
The ocean Atlantic had its first whiff of trouble on approach to Grytviken, a former whaling station on the island of South Georgia.
We received news from the outpost that we would be denied entry to Grytviken. Shackleton's grave is there. There's a lot of infrastructure, sort of remnants from the whaling operations.
The days following brought more bad news. The ship was refused entry to the Falkland Islands, then denied permission to dock at Puerto Madryn and Buenos Aires in Argentina.
That's probably really the point where we started to kind of see things in a totally new light. We were being denied entry into the continent that facilitates us getting home.
After days drifting in a service zone off the coast of Montevideo and staring down the prospect of a self-funded $11,000 per person charter flight home, passengers took matters into their own hands. They made a direct appeal to the Australian government for help.
Please stop Morrison! Bring us home!
There was discussion amongst us and messages from our friends and family as well, telling us that we should be careful not to look too entitled and spoilt, because there were people back home losing jobs, people back home that were obviously also fighting for their lives because of the virus.
The next morning, they got the news they'd been waiting for. The government announced it would cover half the cost of the charter flight home.
It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster for everyone on board those 24 hours in particular.
The crew and passengers were finally allowed to disembark at Montevideo, and a police escort accompanied the 130 Australians to the airport for their flight back to Sydney. This morning, their 2 weeks of mandatory quarantine finally came to an end, though Calvin and Joy still have a flight to Perth ahead of them, where they have another 2 weeks of isolation.
More of the same of this.
yeah.
But yeah, hopefully being able to see my dogs.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit more freedom, I think.